Welcome back. Nice deserved break after a day full of just intentional and impactful empowerment from all of our speakers and the input from the attendees. So, our next speaker, I want to make sure that we do it justice and I read this right. Richard Kaufman, and he is from Dope Dealer to Hope Dealer, a two times top selling author, speaker, coach, and podcast host and producer. So, without further ado, Richard, you have the floor.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so blessed to be here. I don't know if I can even compete with all the speakers that we had today. You guys totally crushed it. I love everything you guys are doing. Uh, like you said, my name is Richard Kaufman. I'm also known as the comeback coach. But today it's not about me. And I do apologize if you see me looking down because I have a traumatic brain injury, so I don't remember stuff much. And I'm 80% blind, so that's why I got to wear these stupid glasses. So I just wanted to say, I wanted to apologize ahead of time. Um, before I get started, my book is called, and I'm not pushing the book at all whatsoever. I talked to David about that already. It's called A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light. Um, but I'm no hero. And the reason why I say that is because the opening quote of the book is by a gentleman named Mr. Christopher Reeve. If you know the original Superman, I wrote to his wife after his death and I asked him if I can use his quote about a hero. He says, I think a hero is an ordinary person who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. And for me, what I wanted to talk about today is I've had three different experiences in my life where I had to turn my life around. And that's why I wear this shirt is called Today I Decide. Every morning we wake up, we have a choice. We can either be a victim or we can be a victor. And one of those days that really turned my life around, if I get emotional, I do apologize. It was a Tuesday morning. It was a very warm Tuesday morning in September. And I was getting ready for work. I was a manager of a general nutrition center in South Carolina, and like I said, I was getting ready for work, and my girlfriend at the time yells to me to come look at what's going on the TV, and the whole world stopped. And that morning was September 11th, 2001. And why it hits me so hard is as I'm where I'm sitting right now, if I go stand on my front porch, I'm overlooking where the Twin Towers once stood. And I knew people that were in the buildings that day. And I have a timeline. And the reason why I have that timeline, it's in my head, it's tattooed on me, is that the world changed. In one day, the whole world changed. And I believe that we can change. You do not have to be the same person that goes to bed tonight that you were when you woke up this morning. Everybody can change. Now, on that morning at 8:46, Flight 11 hit the North Tower. 9:03, Flight 175 hit the South Tower. 9:37, Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. At 10:03, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, plane went down. That day, 2,977 people didn't come home, including 343 firefighters, 125 military and civilian personnel at the Pentagon didn't come home. And the reason why I bring this up is because at this time, I'm in the South Carolina National Guard. And I'm about to be thrown out for the second time. Not for being a drug addict like I was the first time. I got thrown out for being a drug addict in 1989. The second time I was about to be thrown out is just because I was an asshole. And it's very rare for somebody to get back in the military after being thrown out of being a drug addict. And I was about to be thrown out at the end of September 2001. But as I'm watching the bodies, because back then when it was live, there was no editing. You could see the bodies hitting the floor. You could hear the bodies crashing. And they're pulling bodies out of the Pentagon. And here I am knowing I've wasted my whole life. I've took for granted my whole life. And something broke in me that day. I became a broken man. I literally crumbled into my couch. And as I'm watching this live, all of my stuff that I got to turn in at the end of the month is at the right of the TV. So I'm watching bodies being pulled from the Pentagon, but I'm also looking at my stuff and say, wow, these soldiers, these firefighters, they went to work. They're not coming home. And that's the moment I cried out to the Lord. I said, Lord, please give me another chance. I want to live to help other people. I don't want to live for myself anymore. And sorry. And I called my company commander and I had an emergency meeting with them. Now they knew I was going to be supposed to be thrown out at the end of September. But when I went in to see them, they said there was something different in me. I wasn't the same man. And they kept me. They decided to keep me. And within 3 years, I became Soldier of the Year, a non-commissioned officer. And I've lived my life every day in the memory of those thousands of people that died, and especially those 343 firefighters, because they ran into the buildings when everybody was running away. And that's why I believe the three most important words in the English language are today, I decide. We get to decide every day how we're going to live our day. And there was two other times in my life where the day I decide came into play. Once was in 1989 when I got locked up for grand larceny. I robbed a police officer, which was pretty stupid. And I was looking at 5 years for grand larceny. He gave me a break. He said, Rich, I was 20 years old at the time. He said, Rich, and I was good looking at that time. He said, Rich, you're too pretty. He said, if you go to jail in New Jersey, you're going to be somebody's bitch. He said, I'm going to give you a break. He said, I'm going to let you pay back my money that you owe me, which ended up being over $10,000. I gave over $10,000 worth of free drinks away on New Year's Eve in 1989. And you got to go 90 meetings of AA in 90 days. I begged, I borrowed, I didn't steal, but I paid the money back through the help of my dad and my aunts and my uncle. And I haven't had a drink or a drug since January 2nd, 1989. I've been sober. So that was a second today I decide. Now, the thing about that morning is when I got locked up, my uncle said, Rich, I knew you never had what it took to be a military man, because he knew I got thrown out of the military. And it ate at me. It killed me, and I couldn't sleep for months. So eventually I did get back in the military. And then the third today I decide moment was I did 23 years in the military. And I got ran over by a Humvee. It ran over my head, causing me to be blind. And I did everything I could to become Sergeant Kaufman, the ultimate soldier. After 23 years, like I said, I did everything I could. I went to every school they gave me. I was the ultimate soldier. And then I get hurt. And Labor Day 2012, the military tells me, you're no longer Sergeant Kaufman. You can't see, you can't shoot. We don't need you anymore. And that's when I broke. And that was the day that I attempted suicide. It was Labor Day 2012. Because who are you when you're no longer that thing? Who are you if you're no longer an MC? Who are you if you're no longer a speaker? If you're no longer an author? Who are you? And that's what scared me to death, because I didn't know who I was. I'm not Sergeant Kaufman anymore. So who is Richard? And that really scared me to death, where that was the day that I decided to attempt suicide. I got in my car. I got a brand new Dodge Ram 1500. I got in my car and I decided to get my truck up to 100 miles an hour. And then, if you know the highways in New Jersey, it's everything is highways and pylons. So I figured if I got up to 100 miles an hour, took my hands off the wheel, eventually I'm going to hit a pylon and end it all. I called my wife. I was supposed to meet her and the kids down the shore for the weekend. And you know what? It's weird talking to somebody that you're never going to see again, because you're about to take your own life. I called my wife, told her I love her. I love the kids. I had a brand new newborn 6-month-old baby. I told her I loved her, and I knew I was never going to talk to her again. So I got in the car. I got the truck up to 100 miles an hour. And I took the hands off the wheel. And I turned the radio up. But there was a song that came out. It was called I Saw God Today. And it talks about a father seeing his daughter for the first time. And at that moment, today I decided, sorry, I want to be a husband. I want to be a father. And I pulled off the side of the road, called my wife, told her what happened. She's pissed off, of course. But I said, honey, I need help. If I don't get help, I'm going to take the gun to myself and take myself out. She said, well, we can't get you help until Monday because of the holiday. So as of Tuesday, we went to go see my psychologist, and I've been seeing the same therapist since. And it was that time that I decided to help other people struggling, because I can't be the only one struggling with this. Everybody's struggling with something. Whether you're the janitor, whether you're the CEO, everybody's struggling with something. And that's when I decided to write my first book. That was my first book. Then I wrote my second book. And I started a podcast. And it's all about helping people that are struggling in life. Because we're like, even when David was on the show, we talked about, even when Michael Faber was on the show, we talked about the struggle. We talked about Michael's brother. We talked about David's brother. We talked about all this stuff because we're all going through the same stuff. We just have to decide how we're going to deal with this stuff. And for the people that are watching this amazing summit, you guys have so many tools that have been taught by so many people. I mean, Deb totally blew my socks off. Totally amazing. She killed it, crushed it. I believe that we all have to decide what our lives are going to be like. And if you guys get anything from my talk today, it's just that the three most important words are, today I decide. So guys, just make the right decisions today, because whatever decisions you make today is how your life's gonna turn out 5, 10 years from now. Thank you, David, so much for having me on here. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I've learned so much from every one of you guys, and I'm just so grateful that you guys had me here. And sorry for all the crying and the blubbering, but that's just who I am. So thank you guys so much, and I love all of you.
Richard, amazing job. And never apologize for the emotion. It makes it real, it makes it relatable. And we cry here a lot, right? So you're one of us. You fit right in. So thank you for your real, raw emotion. We appreciate it. So David had his hand up before you were finished. So David, what you got?
Thank you, Ash, and thank you for bringing that up. Richard, I want to second that. Don't ever apologize for showing your heart and soul. Show the emotions, bro.
Thank you.
First 5 to 6 summits, I didn't shed a tear. Because when everything happened with my brother, I didn't shed any tears until my wife and I were in my old high school room. Because I knew everybody in the family were falling apart. And in that moment, I needed to be the rock for my parents and my family. And that dragged on for 6 years. I didn't show any emotions. And it affected me in a big way. So be proud of the fact that you're showing your emotions. That's what a real man is. It shows your heart, your vulnerability, and your compassion. And I put my hand up first because I make it a priority to welcome someone new onto the mountain. And this is your first time being a part of the virtual with us. Brother, I didn't know any of this about you. We did that podcast a year and a half ago, and you've been such a massive support with helping with the YouTube channel, and then Michael Duffy stepping in, becoming our podcast sponsor. But starting out, before I even started working with Duffy, you were there, bro. You gave me an opportunity to share my story. So that's just the character of the man you are. That's the heart within you, and the soul, and the power, and the strength. So love you, bro. And again, don't apologize. If I hear you apologize one more time, my family's from New Jersey, and I know people in New Jersey. I'll find an excuse to get over there and come kick you in the ankle if I hear apologies.
Bring it.
I figured you were going to say that. So I'm going to hand it back to my sister from another mother.
Today, David decided violence. Deb, you're up next.
Richard, welcome. You are so needed here in this space. You're already family. Takeaways for me: I was working in Connecticut and at an energy company, and we lost people that day. And I remember driving to the shore, and you probably remember the GW Bridge had the largest flag known ever, and the towers were still smoldering. That said, clearly that part touched me deeply. The biggest takeaway is going forward. Every morning, my new mantra is, today I decide. And finally, when I think about you had such significant points in your life, and many of us do, but this is your time, your story, and all I could picture was my ignorance is showing. I think it's a Japanese tradition with a shattered piece of pottery to mend it with gold. That was the vision I had thinking of you and your sweet soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
James Mueller.
I'll start off with a little bit of humor, Richard. I live in New Jersey, so if David sends me to kick you in the ankle, you're in for a world of hurt. No offense. Not that I'm NFL quality, but I kick pretty hard. Two, thank you for being one of the most open people on the summit that I've ever heard. Especially with the touch points that you were talking about. I resonate and I relate very much. When I said it in the comments when you were talking, especially when the military told you that they didn't need you anymore. One, thank you for your service. I appreciate it. Two, when your identity or when you feel like your identity is stripped away from you, that's next level fear. That's an exposure and that's an uncertainty that not a lot of people know how to handle. And it can lead to a lot of different things. And I'm really glad that God got a hold of you in the highway. Because we need a lot more people. We need a lot more men like you. We need a lot more open, real, honest, vulnerable. This is what life is type of men. We don't have that in today's world or society. And 9/11 had an impact on me too. My dad was in the volunteer fire service for New Jersey. He went up to help. And it's part of the reason why I actually became a firefighter from 2006 to 2012. Not a lot of people know that. But I know in the aspirations, but what I loved is you took the most painful moment in your life and you turned it into something that can support other people. And for that, you will always have my respect. And not a lot of people do that. So I just want to give you honor and homage. And I hope that I can find a friendship with you in the future, because you are the type of person that I would love to see around a lot more. So I thank you very much, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, if you're in Jersey, we got to have some dinner, get some lunch.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Love it. Good stuff. Anybody else before we go to the next speaker? All right, guys. Thank you, Richard, again for being here. We appreciate you pouring into us and look forward to seeing more from you in the future.
Thank you.
Again, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Make sure you stay and hang out. There's more to come. So for those of you on social media, on Facebook or on YouTube, make sure that you are engaging in the post. You're sending Richard and the rest of the speakers love via comment. You're also hitting that heart button over and over again for some engagement for David and the mountain. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe the YouTube channel. All of your shining and beautiful faces will be there amongst other content. And make sure that you are subscribing and liking and following that, along with Facebook and the speakers as well. Really quick, make sure that you are also dropping that green and black in the chat, just like Tim did, because we're happy to have you here. And if you're camera camping on, we would definitely want to make sure that you're still here. So this next speaker, I have had the fortunate opportunity of building a pretty cool friendship with, right? I attended 2 events, and I think the first event we never even crossed paths, but the second event, we had moments that happened after the event. So who's been to an event and the moments after you're like, holy cow, I got so much from the event, but then this moment after is just elevated, right? And one of those moments for me was at an event with Sierra, and Sierra is just a rock star woman. She is feisty, but all the good ways. She's passionate, and she has a heart that just loves and is so big. So she empowers people to build their lives or rebuild their lives, relationships, and business in a way that aligns with who they are. If that's through readings, cash codes, or finding their freaky and free side, with Passion on Fire, I give you my dear friend, Sierra Grana.
Thank you, Ashley. That was really sweet. And I'm grateful for our friendship too. Now I'm nervous. Now I feel like I gotta step up to that bio. But when David told me to switch up my speech, I was actually really annoyed. He heard me speak on another summit about my personal life, so he wanted me to share more of me here. But the thing is, grief scares me. And I'm actually a really big crybaby, so I'll probably cry when I'm speaking here. But writing about things or writing about grief is so much easier for me. I don't know if you guys, a lot of you do follow me on social media. I write a lot. It's easier for me to write than it is to speak because I'm a big feeler. So I feel a lot of things. When I first saw the theme for the summit, Carry the Fire Forward, my first thought was, what the fuck does that even mean? Sorry, David, I am going to swear. But at first I thought about resilience and surviving hard things and pushing through, starting over, holding it all together when life falls apart. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized something else. The fire isn't what we survive. The fire is what transforms us. And sometimes we don't even realize we're standing in it until we're already becoming someone new. I believe life gives us sparks, small moments, painful moments, moments we often wish had never happened. But those sparks have a way of igniting something much bigger. Most of you have seen me do mediumship on previous summits here. It's part of who I am, but it's only a small part of me. It's not something I can just turn off. It's just been there for a long time. My experiences began when I was 3 years old after I drowned in a swimming pool. And I found myself in that white light, in that tunnel, and everything changed for me. I started seeing people who weren't physically there. I began receiving premonitions of events before they happened. I even dreamt about my future husband and my 3 kids long before I met them. And over the years, I learned that living with this gift often feels like I'm standing in between 2 worlds. So I'm in between the visible world and the invisible one. So that space in between. And living between those worlds often meant developing a relationship with grief long before I understood what that grief was. On one side, I have this knowing, and on the other side, my human is very sensitive. She struggles to understand why things happen, especially when it comes to loss. I believe our main priority on earth is to learn how to grieve, how to love deeply, and how to live. Death is something we consistently experience on earth, and my first experience with loss actually happened before I was even born. So my mom was about 8.5 months pregnant with me when her father died. And I believe that her grief seeped into my nervous system. Allison was talking about how it goes into our nervous system. And I think that's why I just am very empathetic to people and can feel grief. Grief is one of the things that I could tell when someone has it. We all have it, but I can tell when someone's really in it. And over the next 39 years of my life, I would lose many family members and friends. And for most of my life, grief felt more like a companion that never left. At times, it felt like grief had become a part of my identity. I think Michael spoke a little bit about this, and a few other speakers. And most people know me as the medium, the business owner, the mother. And here, Dave likes to make it that I'm the rebel. They know that I love to travel and cook and play sports and watch Star Wars. But what most people don't see is the softer side of me, the part that feels deeply, loves deeply, and gives more than she takes. A few of you on here, I do show that side. We've built really great friendships. But my first true spark didn't really start until 2021. I wanted to leave my marriage. We had been together since I was 16 years old, and something inside of me knew I had outgrown the life that I was living. The problem was that I didn't feel like I had a good enough reason to leave. And if I'm honest, I didn't want to be the bad guy. So I stayed. I ignored the nudges. I convinced myself things were improving. And in many ways they were. We became closer. We worked on our relationship. And I started falling back in love with the man that I married. We decided to try for another baby. And then on August 29th, 2022, we lost our daughter, Nevaeh. And grief has a way of stripping away everything that isn't true. But I've also found that grief has a way of bringing people together. For a while, our shared grief made us stronger. And for the first time in years, I thought maybe we were going to make it. I became pregnant again that winter, and our rainbow baby brought so much light into our lives. But there was also a lot of fear. And I actually did hypnotherapy to help me move through the grief of the miscarriage, so I would actually have a healthy delivery. And then we were wrapped up in the newborn joy. Something else kept happening throughout the whole process. My wedding finger, like the ring finger, wedding ring finger, kept breaking out. And so my body was changing. I was holding on to weight. I was holding on to emotions and holding on to truths I wasn't ready to face. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. And when intuition speaks before evidence arrives, we often question ourselves. You wonder if you're imagining this. You wonder if you're being dramatic. You wonder if you're making it up. So I stayed. not because I was happy, not because everything was fine, but because I didn't trust myself enough to honor what I knew. I had simply spent years overriding my intuition. The evidence eventually catches up to what your soul already knows, because sometimes we know the truth long before we're ready to act on it. Sometimes the knowing arrives years before the courage. And that's where the first fire begins, the fire of loss. Most people think loss is about what leaves, the relationship, the dream, the baby, the friendship, the future you thought you were building. But I've learned that loss is often an invitation, because every loss asks the same question: what identity am I being asked to release? 18 months ago, the truth came out. And while that truth was painful, it taught me something important. My intuition wasn't wrong. I told my husband I wanted a divorce. We had just sold our home in South Carolina and moved to Texas without knowing a single person. The future I thought I was building disappeared. And suddenly I found myself standing in a life I didn't recognize. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because I didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't just grieving a marriage, I was grieving an identity. For decades, I had been the wife, the caretaker, the fixer, the strong one, the dependable one, the woman who could hold everything together, until one day I couldn't. And that's what loss does. It clears away everything that can no longer come with you. It's painful, but it creates space. Space for something new, space for something true, which brings me to the second fire, the fire of solitude. After everything changed, I spent a year learning how to be alone, which is funny because my ex and I still live in the same house while we co-parent our 3 kids. But being alone and learning how to be with yourself are 2 very different things. You can be married and feel completely alone. You could be surrounded by people and feel disconnected from yourself. And for most of my life, there was always noise, responsibilities, expectations, someone who needed something from me, someone to save, someone to fix, and someone to focus on. And when all of that started falling away, I was finally left with myself, just me. My thoughts, my fears, my wounds, my dreams, and my truth. And that's where the real work began. Because learning how to be alone isn't about whether another person is in the room. It's about whether you've learned how to sit with yourself without needing to escape, without staying busy, without distracting yourself, without making someone else responsible for your happiness. At some point, I realized I spent over 30 years becoming an expert at taking care of everyone else. But I had never learned how to sit across from myself and ask, who are you when nobody needs you to be anything? That question changed my life. Little by little, I stopped looking outside myself for answers. I stopped looking for someone else to tell me who I was. I stopped looking for someone else to make me feel worthy. I began building trust with myself. I took care of my body. I released 51 pounds. I learned boundaries. I learned accountability. I learned honesty. And without realizing it, I was tending a fire. A quiet fire, though, the kind that changes you from the inside out. Then came the third fire, the fire of reflection. After being separated for over a year, I met someone. For the first time in my life, I felt completely safe being myself with another person. I felt seen, I felt alive, and I remember thinking, so this is what it feels like when someone makes you feel safe. I thought it was him. I thought he was giving me something I had never experienced before. The relationship wasn't very long, and he ended it in an email, which rocked my nervous system. But sometimes the shortest chapters create the deepest transformations. The safety didn't leave, the confidence didn't leave, the self-trust didn't leave. The loving woman I had become didn't leave, because those things were never his. They were mine. He didn't create them, he revealed them. And that realization changed everything, because I finally understood that I wasn't looking for a relationship. I was looking for a feeling, safety, belonging, validation, worthiness. And once I realized I could create those things myself, everything changed. I started looking differently at my relationships, differently at my past, and differently at my father. My father is still alive, but he's not truly present in my life. For the first few years of my life, he was an abusive alcoholic. I was a daddy's girl until my parents got divorced. I always wondered why he didn't fight for us. He remarried and raised my stepsister instead, while spending every other weekend with us. I could feel his love, though. It was strong, but he didn't know how to show it. I began to understand how often I confused potential with reality, how often I hoped someone would become who I needed them to be, how often I chased familiar dynamics because they felt familiar rather than healthy. For years, I looked for others to give me things I never received: consistency, presence, safety, validation, proof that I was worth staying or fighting for. But healing taught me something different. It taught me that we don't need someone to complete us. We need someone who can meet us. It taught me that we don't need to earn love. We need to be willing to receive it. It taught me that we don't need to chase belonging. We need to stop abandoning ourselves. And maybe that's one of the greatest gifts healing offers. Not better expectations of others, clearer expectations of ourselves. The willingness to stop betraying our own truth, the willingness to choose ourselves. And that's when I finally understood what it means to carry the fire forward. Most people think carrying the fire forward means carrying the story, the heartbreak, the disappointment, the loss, but that's not what we're being asked to carry. We're being asked to carry the wisdom, the courage, the self-awareness, the truth, the transformation, because people will come and go, relationships will begin and end, dreams will change, chapters will close, life will continue to evolve. But who you become through those experiences, that's yours forever. That's the fire. The fire is self-trust. The fire is self-respect. The fire is courage. The fire is truth. The fire is a part of you that remains after everything else falls away. And once you found that fire, you stop asking the world to light it for you. You become responsible for tending to it yourself. So if there's one thing I want you to take away today, it's this. When life asks you to walk through the fire of loss, don't ask, why is this happening? Instead, ask, what am I being asked to release? When life places you in the fire of solitude, don't ask, when will this be over? I ask that a lot. Instead, ask, what am I being invited to discover about myself? And when life offers you the fire of reflection, don't ask, what can this person give me? Ask, what is this experience revealing to me? Because the goal was never to avoid the fire. The goal was to become who the fire came to reveal. And wherever life takes me next, that's the fire I'll carry forward. Sorry, I finished early, David. You didn't let me play.
Great job, Sarah. Anybody have questions, input, flowers? Deb, your hand was first.
Sierra. I am such a fangirl of yours.
Thank you.
When David first invited me to the mountain, you were one of the pillars, one of the speakers, and you just, I fell in love with you that day. That said, Mike, or your natural gifts, given your all the work that you do, you kicked off with a statement, and it's a reasonable statement. I fear grief. I think you said I fear grief, not I fear death. I think you said I fear grief. And I was curious if you know why.
Yeah, because for me, death is easy because you don't have to deal with it, right? Everyone else around us has to deal with it. So that grief can stay with you forever until you're dead, right? So it's constantly having to feel it.
Good. Very good. Mary is the only one that still has her hand up. Go ahead, Mary.
Hey, Sierra, I love you.
I love you.
And I hate that I rushed home and missed a little bit of it. But what I heard was like, thank you for being so vulnerable and opening up. Because it's definitely helped me. So I appreciate that, girl.
Welcome. Yeah.
David.
Sierra, I love this side of you. I know I give you crap all the time about being the feisty one, but that's the best part of you. You keep us all on our toes. You know, you definitely do that with me. I never know what version I'm going to get when I'm hanging around you. And it's good for my soul because there are times that I'm a little bit too serious.
Mm-hmm.
And I get called out on that by certain bros that love to call me on that. And when you call me out on that, especially the day after I had my shoulder surgery, and we were all on the call together, and I was doing this routine, spinning my head around because of the medication I was taking with the surgery, you were the first one that was worried about me. And, you know, that's just your heart it's your soul. And I love seeing this side of you. And, you know, it's no big deal that you ended early. You know, you never know how these things are going to flow. And it's absolutely amazing. I love seeing this side of you, and I'm going to keep challenging you, my friend, because I love pushing buttons and challenging people. And as a younger brother, I'm very good at it.
You're an older brother to me, though.
That's true.
Nice. Josh.
Sierra, ever since I first came across your name in that random Mike Wayne chat, and then fuck around and find out while I was in Bali, I've gotten to know you pretty well over these past few years. And it makes me smile and laugh. One, realizing that you've gradually, slowly snuck up on me and become one of my favorite humans on the planet. But second, that you were so insistent 2 years ago that you were done with learning. You had nothing else to learn. You didn't need to grow. Had arrived. You were where you were. And how much you've learned and grown since then is awe-inspiring. And I'm proud of you.
Yeah, life
And
humbled me.
my question for you is, if Dave had let you play, how would we have played today?
Um, I don't even think I think I was going to speak the way I wanted to speak today anyways, but maybe a little mediumship. We'll see. Dave doesn't like that, so.
Nice. Anybody else? No. Sierra, I will say I read your post on Facebook, right? And your words when you write is like poetry, even when you're unintentionally not writing poetry, right?
Mm.
And so I'm glad that you were able to share that poetry verbally with us today. It was different. I love everything you do, but it was different and it suits you. Also, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
So everything you just said, your poetry, right? Where are you today in all the feels and all of that position in life? Where are you at today? How you feel?
I'm definitely at peace. I feel like I have control, not control, but a knowing of where I'm going, and I have the motivation to get there. So it's just very peaceful.
I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you.
Badass. Awesome. All right. Guys, make sure if you're watching live on YouTube and Facebook, that you are giving Sierra her flowers or asking questions in the comments so she can go back and check that out. Tish, we got a hand raised and Lauren. My goodness, ladies. All right, Tish, you're up.
I had emergency with my animal sanctuary, but I can always watch Sierra's piece. I harass her on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, send her, she's like my alter ego. So I'm looking forward to watching it. Sierra, you made an impact in my life. You impact others' lives. And I prayed for you the whole time that you were driving. I have this weather blessing prayer, and I kept playing it and playing it and playing it. My husband said, "We have no bad weather." I know, but I'm trying to guide someone to Boston, so leave me alone.
It was perfect weather the whole way.
I know.
Thank
And
you.
it was all because of me. Yes. So God bless you. And you just keep being you, because you impact so many, and you have been such a blessing in my life. And hopefully, well, you'll be at MML in 27, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I think I was one of the first ones to buy a ticket. So I will see you there.
Yeah.
Love you
Thank you.
dearly.
Thank you. Love you.
All right, Lauren with the great hair. You're up.
Sorry, I'm on my phone at the ball field, but great job, Sierra. I was wondering, I have a question for you. What's the most surprising thing you've learned about yourself in, say, the last 6 months?
I think how much security I do have in myself, like how much trust and knowledge and wisdom that I hold, like the security that I've created within myself in the past 6 months. I've never felt that.
And how do you think that will help you in the future?
I'm in my I don't need anybody phase, so I don't I feel like I'm good. Like, I just feel good. I'm happy. I'm living life, and I don't know. I am 100% focused on me, and I have never been like that. I mean, I have my 3 kids still, they're top of my mind, but if I focus on me, it obviously helps them.
Proud of you.
Like,
Who else? Anybody else before we go to the next speaker? All right, we're gonna dive right into the next speaker. So I'm excited about this one because I also am having the luxury of getting to know almost all the speakers a little at a time after every summit, right? And this woman I just think is so great, and I'm so glad that she came into the community a couple summits ago, and we got to hear from her. And now I've got to spend time with her virtually, of course, because we're far spread. But she is a mom. She's divinely led. She's a huge inspiration to so many, an educator, an advocate, mentor, and a creative healer with a heart that is made for healing. So without any further ado, will you guys please welcome Mary Wood.
Oh my God, Ashley, I was not ready for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi, guys. This is my 3rd summit to come back to speak to. And this time today is a little bit different. It's more intimate, because what I realized over the last 2 summits preparing a speech and reading it is that grief is intimate. When somebody asks me what your relationship is with grief, I definitely take a moment and I pause. And I pause with intention and I breathe. And then I realize that for me, my grief is intimate. It's the longest relationship I've had in my life. And some of you guys know, because of what I've disclosed the last 2 summits, is that I've experienced death at a very early age. I didn't really talk about my birth trauma and experience, but my twin sister almost died at birth as well. So I was born into this world with near-death experience being a twin. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about carrying the fire forward. And when I think about that, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. One is I want you guys to think about forgiveness. You cannot carry the fire forward without first having forgiveness, okay? So as I go through my talk, and I have no idea how long this is going to go, so David or Ashley, you might need to stop me, or I might stop myself, who knows, is who in your life, to carry the fire forward, do you need to forgive, okay? So I'm going to go back to when my father died. I was 10 years old. And he had gotten diagnosed in July, and my birthday is in August. So for my 11th birthday, we were allowed to have a birthday party with him being very sick with pancreatic cancer. And he recluded himself to my baby sister's room and didn't participate in the birthday party. Halfway through the party, we were dancing and doing cake and all of that. My mom told us to go up to see our father, me and my twin sister. And I had no idea what my dad wanted to ask me or talk to me about. But I do remember that his presence was not at my birthday party. That was the first experience I had with him not being around, and he was still living. So he had us kneel down because he was on the bottom bunk. My baby sister shared a bunk bed, so he was on the bottom bunk, and he had said, "Promise me, girls, there's 2 things I want you to promise me. One, that you'll never wear makeup because you guys are too beautiful for makeup, and makeup masks your beauty. So never do that." So that's something that I honor him, and I choose not to wear makeup. Lipstick a couple times, but makeup, not the one. But the second thing he had asked me, he said, "Promise me to take care of your mother." And so I realized, look, and of course we said, yes, of course we'll take care of mom. And so 6 months later, he was dead. He had died. But I had carried, that's the fire within me to carry forward, is my passion and my father's last dying wishes to me, which was to take care of my mother. And I realized in that moment when Amber talked today, at what age were you when you took all that responsibility on yourself? That is when I became the parentified child. And I had no idea the words at the time until I grew up, that's what happened. I stopped being a kid in that moment after he had passed away, and I started parenting my mother. She, obviously was consumed with grief. There was no point for her to be able to manage 6 kids, let alone herself. So me and my sister were forced into becoming the parent and taking the emotional responsibility of everything. And that has been 35 years now that I am trying to remind myself to step out of that role and to be who Mary is. Where's Mary and all of that? I essentially erased myself. And that's why I'm telling you, I might cry. I don't know, this is super vulnerable, but becoming the parentified daughter and dealing with that without a male figure in the house, because when my father died, my sense of safety, my whole world shattered because I was a daddy's girl and all of that. But anyway, so I'm speaking to the people right now who have children experiencing grief and loss, or who were children who had a traumatic death while they were kids. Okay, that you know that pain, you know what we carry and how to let that go. So as we were preparing for the summit, I kept coming back to forgiveness, which is interesting because in my Bible study, and only a few people know this, is that we're working on forgiveness. And I'm working on the forgiveness of my mother and how she just wasn't there, right? But I look back with radical acceptance and understand that that was all her capacity to do at the time. I don't hold it against her. So then the forgiveness goes a deeper level to myself because I chose to own that even though I was a kid. So having that forgiveness extended back into myself, and in those moments of hardship or when I'm called to action is when I lean in on that responsibility. And essentially it's that love for my dad to carry that fire forward. And I can't explain it any other way other than when you get quiet and it's that love that you feel inside, that fire, that's what we're talking about. That's carrying that forward, whether you want to, you don't want to, whether it's difficult, whether it's hard, and you do it. And this is extremely hard for me right now. Like this is really vulnerable for me right now to do this. So I'm just asking you guys to really think about who in your life you need to forgive, whether it's yourself or somebody else. And I don't know if David is on, but I did create some handouts that are AI generated. Michael alluded to, which is hilarious. And I use humor to deflect emotion. So anyway, so I want you guys to take a few minutes to fill out, journal, note, whatever's coming up for you right now, to think about how this is resonating with you. Because I mean, the grief is just love with nowhere to go. And how are you going to carry that fire forward first with who you need to forgive to be able to take that step? Thank you. That was pretty much it.
Pretty much it. You're just going to glaze over like you didn't just.
Yeah, I know. See, like, this is why, like, I don't know. But thank you. I appreciate being here, David.
Yeah, thank you for being vulnerable with us and sharing that with us. And like we've said before today, emotions are great. It makes it real and we can relate to that. Okay. So thank you for sharing your true emotions with us. James, hand up, ready to go.
I'm gonna cry. So this other thing is like looking at your faces makes it more emotional to me.
No. Listen, like there are not a lot of people that can come and mic drop a room the way that you mic drop a room since you've started. Okay, like you're mic dropping, like you're cutting through. You're cutting through every bush of bullshit, and you're just getting right to the meat of the point, right to the details, right to the heart of it. Because even fitting with this theme, like we don't have time to deal with anything else. Right? We don't have time to deal with the what ifs or the variables or should I or shouldn't I forgive this or should I not let this, like let it go. take what you need to move forward with, take your lessons, take your blessings, take all of it, take it all, look forward, stop looking back, just be real with it. And you impress me every time you talk. And I have to make sure that you know that every time I hear you speak.
Thank you.
So you are an incredible human, and I'm so excited to see you because you elevate every time. So yeah, just keep being you, girl. Keep being you. I love it.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in front of Sierra here really quick. Mary, yes, I did drop those documents into the Zoom chat. And two, absolutely loved it. I agree with James. You've been dropping firebombs since this is our third one of the year, so since February. And every time you come onto the mountain, you absolutely crush it. And your heart is shining through every single time. And there come the lasers on the mountain. I have to figure that out. But every time you come onto the mountain, I love your heart and the vulnerability, and it's incredible. So keep doing you. And really quick, I just want to thank you for sponsoring the virtual summit. You know, what you do with the Legacy Healing organization that you're building and what we're building over here. Thank you for joining us and supporting the movement. And I'm really excited to be partnering up with you because I still want to talk to you about a special idea that I've got. So, Sierra?
Since I was so rudely interrupted. Mary, I love that you trusted yourself enough to speak from your heart, because your heart is so powerful and so beautiful. And just the way you came out, like the way you just felt confident in what you were sharing, and the wisdom that you provided was like medicine. So beautiful. Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Tish.
What I love, Mary, is when you talk from the heart, your eyes sparkle. And you also you also have the wonderful smile, and so that just makes everyone feel so good. And even though you may have butterflies or nervousness, can't tell, because because you speak from the heart and your face shows it and your eyes sparkle, and that makes me so happy to see that. So
thank you. I appreciate that. Not having like anything prepared, I wanted to throw up. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Even people that have prepared speeches want to throw up.
Well, yeah. But anyway, thank you.
This is true. This is true. Mary, so I don't think David announced your next speaker here yet.
Yeah, so we're a half hour ahead of schedule here.
Oh gosh.
And so, no, it's not you, Mary. It's all good. You know, how's everybody doing? Let's check in, have a reflection moment here.
Doing well. David, if it would help, if you want to move me up and have me speak today instead of tomorrow, I could do that.
Yeah, why don't we do that, Josh? We'll put you in this spot now, and then we'll work
Gives more flexibility for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ash, it's all yours.
Okay.
Thanks,
well,
Josh.
shoot, Josh. I don't have your bio ready yet, sir. That's okay. I think
You'll
I can
just have to wing it.
Yeah, I'll just have to wing it. First impression of Josh, always barefooted, right? You can't miss it. That's a thing. I happen to adore that. I can run across gravel, so what's up, barefoot partner, right? But also, there's just this kindness in your heart and this depth, and the way that you move people through your words when you are sharing with them or telling them about them, right? People receive the information that you give them, and I think it's the way that you deliver it through love and understanding. And so I can't wait to learn even more from you. Every time I've seen you speak or share, I'm moved. So I can't wait for you to move the rest of the room. Take it away, Josh.
Thank you. When I started thinking about the theme for today, Carry the Fire Forward, the first thing that came to my mind was a famous quote from two of my favorite philosophers from my childhood, Beavis and Butthead. Fire, 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 fire. And like Beavis and Butthead, I absolutely love fire. I love staring into it. I love watching it dance in the wind. I love the way it illuminates a dark and cold night. I love the way we can cook over it. We can create amazing food. I love the way it emits light and heat. And I love that it puts the fear of God in us because it can also destroy. And fire is something that can heal or harm. Fire is something elemental, something immensely powerful, and it all depends on how we channel it. So when I think about the fire that we carry with us, the fire that we carry forward, it doesn't necessarily come from a place of grief or pain or loss, but it's this untapped potential force for impact that's at the heart of everything we are and everything we do. And in the immortal words of Billy Joel, we didn't start the fire. So it made me start thinking, where does the fire in us, the thing that motivates our actions, the thing that's deep inside that pushes us in certain directions, that gives us the fuel to keep going when it's hard, where does this fire come from? Who started the fire? And some of it is intrinsic. Some of it is just part of who we are, part of, if you want to call it human design, part of your pattern, part of what makes you you at a metaphysical level, God-given, that spark of life that's breathed into us. But also part of it is nurture. Part of it is what our parents and our teachers have breathed into us, have modeled to us, have sparked in us. So I started thinking about my parents. And I started thinking about what they did to fan the flames of my fire. And what's, for some of you, sadly, some of your parents have done to sort of try and damp and put out your fire. Everyone has different relationships with their parents. And I honor the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to that. But for my parents, and especially when so many of you have talked about sort of grief and losing parents, I still have my parents with me. My mom is 79. My dad is 84. And they're both very present, very much alive. And I love them with every fiber of my being. And they fueled my fire by loving me unconditionally and by teaching me how to do the same. They fueled my fire by encouraging my curiosity, by giving me books, by letting me read, by letting me ask questions. My first word was why. And I've never stopped asking it. And they kept answering, or when I couldn't answer, when they couldn't answer, they pointed me in directions to find out. So one of the biggest sources of my fire, one of the things that keeps burning, is my desire to understand everything and everyone at as deep a level as I can. A fire to understand the things that connect us, to celebrate our differences, but also to embrace our similarities, and to deeply explore anything and everything. That was one of my first classes with Sierra, this idea of learning and whether it was necessary and whether there was a point where we didn't need to learn anymore. I think she looked at it more as learning lessons. She looked at it more as learning in a form of soul growth, whereas for me, learning is a form of creative play. Learning is just a source of joy. You don't need to learn, you get to learn. And that's part of my fire. The other big part of my fire is the fire of empathy. The fire of deeply feeling what others are going through. Being moved by the joy, the pain, the terror, not just of the people that I'm privileged to know, but of all the people in the world. And this wasn't always part of who I was. Back to my parents, my relationship with my parents. When I was a little kid, I had all the adults in my life wrapped around my little finger. I could convince them of anything. If I didn't feel like doing an assignment, I could get an extension for the whole class. If I didn't want to do something, I just found a different way. When I was in 10th grade and I walked into the guidance office and I saw a dark office with no one in it, I said, "Whose office is that?" And they said, "Oh, it's empty." And I said, "Oh, can I have it?" And they said, "What do you mean, can you have it?" I said, can I use it in the mornings to get my homework done and send faxes to the UN from all the UN? I guess no one else is using it. So I literally had an office in the high school. It's just, I always asked for what I wanted, and the universe often shocked me by saying yes. But the one person who I didn't have twisted around my little finger, the one person I couldn't manipulate, and it drove me crazy, was my mom. Because my mom looked at me at 10 years old and realized, if it keeps going in this direction, we're going to raise a monster. So she started saying no. And I was pissed. She said no, not always for good reasons. She just said no because she needed to protect her ability to say no. And we had bitter fights over it. We both were too damn much alike. We both were sure we were right. We both knew better, and we both wanted to control my life. At least that's how I looked at it then. I realize now that she was right about 40% of the time, not 0% of the time like I thought. But she created boundaries. She held the line, and we would fight, and sometimes I would win, sometimes I wouldn't. But I also realized that she was right about one thing. She was right that if I kept going along the path of getting everything I wanted whenever I wanted, I would become a monster. So at 10 years old, I made it a mission to exercise my empathy, to intentionally put myself in others' shoes, to think not just about what I wanted, but about the impact on other people. And just like any other muscle you exercise, it got stronger and stronger and stronger until it's truly become my superpower. And it fuels my business, it fuels my passion, it fuels my life, because I realized that it's ultimately not about me. It never was. It's about the impact I can have on the world during my time that I'm in it. It's about the way that each of us can bend the moral arc of history so it bends towards justice. It's about how the world is going to be different 100 years after we're gone because we're here. It's not just about getting what I want. It's about learning to want the thing that serves the world best. So that has become a part of my fire. But fires are powerful and amazing. But fires are also vulnerable. Water can put them out. Wind can put them out. There's other countering forces that can damp or damage or redirect a fire. And one of those things is grief that isn't properly channeled. Grief can put out our fire, or it can strengthen and redirect it. There's post-traumatic stress, and there's post-traumatic growth. And some of that choice is based on our predisposition, some of it is based on the way we're raised, but some of it is up to us. And one of the most interesting forms of grief is pre-grieving, is grieving someone or something that isn't even gone yet. It's when you're in a relationship and you start to sabotage it because you're afraid it may end. It's when you push people away before they can push you away. It's when your parents are getting older and you realize that their time on this planet is finite. It's me in this last month where my dad, 84 years old, my dad is getting home from the grocery store with my mom, and she's carrying groceries. He's just walking around the side of the car, and he falls. And it was a bad fall. He hit his head. He's bleeding from the forehead. My mom is probably at this point not even 5 feet. She's shrunk over the years. She's much less in weight than she used to be, and she doesn't have the strength between arthritis and shoulder surgery. She can't lift my dad up off the concrete. So she calls 911. They rush him to the hospital, and the first CAT scan shows that he has a broken bone in his neck. But fortunately, it's a stable fracture. A collar for 6 weeks, he'll be fine. But the scan also shows there's an unstable, unhealed fracture in his mid to low back, but it didn't happen in this fall. Their best estimate is that it happened 6 months ago in a different fall that he didn't get checked out. And he's been having back pain, but I'm 84 years old, I have back pain. It's been a ticking time bomb for the past 6 months. He fell funny, he moved funny, he could have severed his spinal cord and could have paralyzed himself or worse. So the doctor said if he was 64 instead of 84, it would have been no question. We would recommend surgery. And they said, but he's 84 years old. Surgery is really risky when you're 84 years old, especially when you have Parkinson's. And the potential delirium coming out of anesthesia is even more of a factor. So we can't clearly recommend one thing or the other. So we sat down and we had a conversation. We talked about the pros and the cons. And I thought I was just laying out objectively the pros and the cons. But my dad basically told me, you talked me into doing the surgery. I said, I wasn't trying to talk you into anything. He's like, no, you talked me into it because you're right. With the surgery, there's a chance of recovery. Without the surgery, there's the hope things don't get worse and I'll never get better. And the surgery is risky, but not doing the surgery is just as risky, but there's no upside. So 84 years old, he had spinal fusion surgery. And he came out of it sharper than he went in. Literally, minutes after coming back from surgery, he was joking, asking questions. He was more with it than he is on a typical day. And now he's in rehab. He is slowly but surely getting stronger. He's great at getting into and out of his wheelchair and pulling himself up to get into the car for the many appointments that Mom and I have taken him to. He's working on starting to use a walker so he can get out of the wheelchair and come back home. And then a few weeks ago, I'm in the gym during my 4 days a week with the gym with my brother. We meet at 6 a.m. or so. It's a great tradition. It's the only time I get to see him, unless we're visiting Dad at rehab. And I get a call while I'm in the sauna. And I pick up the phone. It's my mom. I always pick up the phone when my mom calls no matter what's going on, because she had 17 falls last summer in a 6-week period, and eventually found out that it was dehydration, improper nutrition, and the fact that she'd been subsisting on an average of 2 hours of sleep a night for the past 2 years, combining with what we later realized was also probably some low blood pressure incidents. But anyway, she's gotten a lot better at the falling after she broke her shoulder and arm last October, and she's been doing well. But I answered the phone, can't hear her, so I said, Mom, hang on, I'm in the sauna, I'll call you when I get out. So 5 minutes later, I'm in the parking lot of the gym, I call her, she's like, Josh, I fell, I'm on the bathroom floor, I can't get up. So I'll be right there. So in my sweat-soaked sauna clothes, I rush to my mom's house. I get there, I go upstairs, I help her up. She weighs practically nothing as far as I'm concerned, so that's easy. I help her catch her breath, calm down. She goes to the bathroom. She keeps falling asleep while she's going to the bathroom, which is concerning because she probably hit her head. So I'm trying to convince her to go to the emergency room to get a scan to make sure there's no brain bleed or anything. She's resistant. She also has been having chest pain when she breathes deeply the past few days and has shortness of breath. She said the past few days. Evidently, have been going on for the past 2 months. She just never told us. So I'm like, you do at least talk to your doctor. So she calls her doctor. The doctor's assistant calls back and says, you need to get to the ER. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go to the ER. So between the two of us, we convince her. So I take her to the ER, and 10 and a half hours later, we find out that she has fluid pressing on her heart. And her heart is the strongest thing about her. Her heart has never given her trouble. Her heart is one of the things that has fueled my fire all my life. And she has a pericardial effusion putting pressure on her heart. She also had dangerously low blood pressure. It dropped as low as 70/40 during that first day in the ER. And she keeps falling asleep. At one time she woke up and they're asking her what year it is, and she insisted it was 12/12. 12/12. Like, are you sure? Yes, it's 12/12. And then it was 1926, and then it was 2020. Yeah, she was out of it. And she sometimes, when she first wakes up, she's a little incoherent, especially when she's overtired, but this was extreme, even for her. So spent 5 days in the hospital. They finally sent her home because the second echo showed no growth in the fluid pressing on her heart. But she can't do as much as she usually does. And with my dad in rehab, she's living on her own. So during her 5 days in the hospital, I have been visiting Dad in rehab, visiting Mom in the hospital, going to their house to walk their dog Sammy, make sure he feels love and doesn't piss all over everything, and running my business and managing my daily headaches that I've had since November, which I guess have conclusively been proven not to come from stress, because during these 2 weeks, they were the best they've been since November. And I'm proud to announce that my headaches have significantly improved. The daily baseline headache constant hasn't changed since November, is now a 1.5 to 2 instead of a 2 to 2.5 out of 10. And the daily spike to 4 or 5, which happens for hours every day, is now happening only like every third day. And the debilitating 8, 9 out of 10 spike that has been happening half to 2/3 of the days has happened twice in the last 2 weeks. So I'm definitely on the road to improving, and I'm going to continue to improve. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the nortriptyline that my dosage increased. I don't know if it's losing 55 pounds over the last 7 weeks. I don't know if it's the fact I'm going to yoga more. I don't know if it's the fact that I am eating less or eating better. I have no idea, and I don't really care. I'm trying lots of things, and whatever's working, I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep finding things that work. But the fire is an unwillingness to accept no for an answer from the universe. Is the fierceness with which I show up for those I love, with which I believe in my clients, with which I intentionally grow into the person I need to be to shape the future I want for myself, my ultimate children, and for the world. The fire is that thing in us that will never let us quit. It's the thing that fuels our desire, our passion, our fierce belief that the future can be better than today. That fire is what makes worth living. That fire is living. That fire is the divine spark that gets breathed into each of us as we're born. And that fire is the thing, when we combine our fires, we can light that is undreamed of in the human experience. Thank you all for listening.
Josh, as always, beautiful job, as always. David had his hand waiting up before the countdown was over. So David, go ahead.
I had to jump before Deb or before all these lovely ladies here today. But Josh, I want to just make sure I heard this right. Did you say 55 pounds in 7 weeks?
Yeah, so far.
Dang, dude.
I'm doing another one of those crazy gym contests. And the final way out is Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Dang, dude. I mean, I'm trying to catch you, bro. I'm down 95 pounds.
Wow.
And that's not in 7 weeks. So massive, massive props to you, bro. And I just, as we all say here, now that I understand it, and thanks to Ashley explaining this to me, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours ago, but I'm going to give you massive flowers here, bro, because one, I am the barefoot king here in Denver, Colorado. I wear shorts during the winter, even when it gets down to 10 degrees. I love wearing t-shirts, and that's all thanks to you when I met you in Niagara Falls 4 years ago, when I found out about the cancer diagnosis. You were absolutely incredible when you gave me that massive hug when I got the call, even though I didn't tell anybody when I got the diagnosis. You've been a part of, I think, 5 or 6 summits now with us, and every single time you bring something unique, special, and beautiful to the mountain, and I love it. And hopefully I can convince you to get your beautiful, handsome face out here in September, because I shared earlier about our live event coming up at the end of September. You weren't here for that. That's why I'm bringing it up again. Come hang out with us in Denver September 25th, because we're going to take you around to some epic, amazing spots here in Colorado. But I wanted just to give you your flowers, because Colorado is known for some beautiful wildflowers, y'all, and you don't want to miss it. So, Ashley, who had their hand up after me?
Sierra.
I knew it. I knew I had to get before her.
Yeah. Josh, I just want to say I watched your whole speech.
Wow.
I actually made it this time and listened to the whole thing. No, I really liked how, I don't want to say I liked, I found it really interesting when you were talking about pre-grieving And I thought that was a really important thing. It's like the self-sabotage and how we, we grieve things before they actually happen. I thought that was really important to bring up. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
And then Tim.
You're muted, Tim.
Sorry, Tim, we still can't hear you, bro. Nope.
Odd. He doesn't have the mute thing on, but it's not making any sound.
No, there's something. He has a new setup.
Because how about now? How about now?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm hearing you now.
There you
Yes.
go.
So I'm dealing with a whole different setup with a laptop I'm not used to. So I said shoes off to you, brother. You make me feel more grounded every time I hear you speak. So I got to take my shoes off to you, brother. That's the only way to say it. Love you.
Thank you. Love you
I
too.
love that. James, you're up next. Nope.
Tim, it must be contagious.
I think it is contagious with Tim. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Can we all hear me now while I go on the Tim
Yes.
tangent? Okay.
Yes.
No, just kidding. I love you, Tim. Josh, bro, off the cuff, early, literally just filled in a spot, and you still delivered like you prepared for 6 months. Like you never cease to show how versatile you are at any time. Like you're ready. Like, oh, right now? Okay, cool. And you deliver with such quality. Dude, I always admire watching you. Like your cadence is on point, your inflections, your tonality, how you drive the emotionality of the story. Like it's cool, man. I love listening to you. I love getting the experiences from you. It sucks some of them aren't good all the time, but you bring it in such a way that is just I would say awe-inspiring. And I'm always very happy and grateful to see you in action, man. So thanks, bro. Keep it up.
Thank you. I like to think I've been preparing for this speech for 48 years.
That's true.
Deb, you're up.
Well, Josh, you know what's coming next. Hey, baby. How you doing?
Pretty good.
I'm so in awe of you. I just adore you so much. And I can't believe that I need to explain this to you, but the whole spark thing, there's this theory called Big Bang. I joke, but I love how for you took it from, where did it start? Maybe Big Bang, combustible gases, but then you crafted your talk today around your amazing parents and the fact that kudos to mom who had this. I can picture you as this absolutely adorable, precocious child. That's not such a stretch, is it, Tish? Anyway, I can picture this, and kudos to mom. And they definitely created a masterpiece, not a monster. And thank you for sharing yourself with us and your parents. Mwah.
Great. That was so sweet, Deb. Tish.
On May 14th, I did my annual golf tournament. I'm the photographer for a local economic council here in South Haven. And one of the very last teams that I photographed, when I walked up onto the tee, I just screamed. Because you know why? Take a wild guess. One of the golfers played the whole day without any effing shoes on. And I even have a picture to prove it. So he said, "Oh my gosh, I've got a doppelganger." Yeah, you sure do. He's a lot shorter than you are, but he is one of the most precious people you'll ever meet. And this gentleman said to me, "That's because you guys are grounded. You guys are grounded to Mother Nature, to Earth, to the spiritualness, and you are the best ever. So do not give up on us, and just respect us, that we are it. We are the in thing, wearing no shoes. And that was from him to tell you. Thank you as always, my friend. God love you.
All right. Anybody else before we move on? Nope. All right, guys, make sure that you are showing Josh the love in the chat. If you are live on Facebook, make sure that you are commenting the green and black, and you're also hitting that heart over and over. Just keep tapping it. Show the page and the speakers love as they come on and present. Also on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing and also showing love in the comments as well. Moving on to our next speaker, Vicki Kempker. I hope I said that right. If not, I apologize. She is not only a keynote speaker and a coach, but she's a people decoder. Can't wait to hear what that's about. A pattern breaker and a freedom creator. And so without any further ado, please welcome Vicki.
Thank you very much. You guys can hear me okay, correct? I didn't catch the Josh and Tim mute point, have I? Okay, so you know, I'm going to be talking today about detours and uniqueness. And kind of as Josh said, I was introduced to this opportunity at the last minute to step in and speak for an open spot. And I just had to say, I know me. I just have to find a way to share my story in a way that is putting it all under one umbrella. So when I came back and go, okay, what am I going to share along my journey and who I am and why I am, I realized that I've always said, trust the process. And in trusting the process, I've had amazing things come into my life. I've had some unique opportunities, and I've had some real frustrations along the way too. So I'm just going to say that having my name spelled as Vikki, growing up, I did not like it. You can't go buy nameplates for your bike. You can't buy frames for the top of your bedroom door. You know, everybody goes and gets keychains. It was never something that fit me. And I realized after many years that was actually a gift. And having a unique name also created a unique opportunity. So there are no accidents in life. And I've learned that God's delays are not God's denials. And that what life keeps teaching me over and over is trust the process. So let me ask you, have you ever looked back and wonder why things aren't unfolding as you planned? They sure didn't plan out that way for me. But I started my career early in the insurance world. I had my neighbor down the street. I was going to go to college, didn't care for high school. It was way too cliquish and way too, like, I was done with that. So I'm like, oh, let me just go work for a year. Well, anybody who's taken that path realizes you probably aren't going back to school. I got into the insurance world. My neighbor down the street says, I own this insurance agency. Do you want to come be a receptionist? I'm like, sure. Well, receptionist turned into getting 4 different promotions within a year. And I'm like, who needs college? Let's keep making some money. And I learned that actually the insurance gave me the financial stability that I needed, but it sure didn't fuel anything inside of me. I really had a love-hate relationship with the insurance, but it gave me so many perks. What I was really fascinated with is personal development, and more about that to come. But I always wondered why smart people would say what they wanted to do, but they would never do it. And they would swear things off, and then the next thing you know, their action and their words didn't match each other. And I didn't understand how that all played out. But as I was going through my career, got married, had kids, end up having a unique scenario where we moved to Las Vegas. I grew up in Southern California, had been there for 30 years. My husband says, you know, I've got an opportunity in Vegas. Vegas was growing like crazy, 20 plus years ago. I was pregnant, giving my parents their first grandchild, leaving a career that I thought was in my past. And when my son was 5 days old, I moved to Vegas. No new city, no family, no friends. And going, okay, now what? God, you brought me here. You didn't bring me here to set me back. What's next? So what came next was another insurance opportunity. Thought I left insurance, but here I am back. And that insurance opportunity allowed me to work from Vegas to work for an insurance agency out of California. Again, that filled the bucket that it needed to, where it was giving me something to do. It allowed me to make money, still raise my kids because I was working from home, but I knew that that wasn't lighting me up. And then another plot twist, divorce. Like, okay, now I'm going through in the city, no family, no friends. I wasn't ready to pull my kids away from their father. And I just kept saying, Vicki, trust the process. There's a reason. There's all this is happening for me, not to me. So it was one of the most challenging times in my life. But what it allowed me to do was realizing that it's okay to ask for help. And asking for help I was always the one helping people. I never had a chance to say, I don't know if I can do this on my own. I don't know. My ex-husband, he would do his part with the kids, but for the most part, it was me. And if I wanted to do anything, it was up to me to figure out how my kids would get to sports, how to get them to school. It was one of the most loneliest, isolating, and yet rewarding to be able to raise my kids and raise these kids raise these humans. So then if I look back and say, what started happening? I started getting win-wins where this opportunity that I was working for the insurance, I got to take my kids to California and have my parents watch my kids while I did my circuit. So I started reframing these things of, I can look back and say, the insurance world is sucking everything out of me. How do I start building what's really important for me? And looking for these win-wins and realizing that when I reframe things and I look at it from a different perspective out in the future, it really does do something to say, oh, I'm in a different mode. It's amazing the things that you can see when you step above all of the life happens events. And again, the divorce, that was challenging, but what it did is it made me realize where did I miss something? Like another unique scenario is my parents are still happily married. They just celebrated their 62-year wedding anniversary this past week. Most of my friends, they're all in a marriage relationship that has been long-term. I was one of the few people who was divorced and single and the third wheel in a lot of these scenarios. And I started to go, what's going on that I need to go back and figure out why certain things work and why certain things have been amiss. So I was sitting in the garage at my neighbor's house and kids were outside playing and he was talking, he goes, oh yeah, my mom went and saw this energy practitioner and it was really weird. Like he was able to identify certain things and it was so weird that it was spot on. And I immediately said, I want that information. Like there's something I didn't even have to think twice. Like there was something that said, this is what you need to go see this person. And I will say that is probably one of the biggest game changers in my life, was getting introduced to a whole different side of life that I had no idea that even existed. And one of the most memorable things that he helped me understand is how I deal with stress. And I deal with stress by eating candy and sugar, and Reese's peanut butter cup was my drug of choice. When I would get stressed, Reese's. Now there was ice cream and there was cake and quick story. I would when my kids were older and I was in my monthly cycle, I would go, oh, let's have a just because party. Well, that just because party was making cupcakes and letting them frost them. And we would sing, just because, just because, just because, just because. Well, they never figured out that me wanting to do a big sugar party was because I had PMS, and if I was going to eat, I might as well let them have some of the fun in it too. So when I told them that years later, they kind of got a chuckle out of it. But going back to the energy healer, what he helped me identify was why Reese's was so key to me. And he had pointed it out to being at 7 years old is when that initial imprint became part of my life. And when I looked back at age 7-ish, I didn't necessarily know exactly what it was, but my dad used to give my mom, my sister, and I our favorite candy bar, a red rose, and a greeting card every Valentine's Day. And he did that for, I think, until I moved out. There might have been a year or two that I had a red rose and a candy bar, but for the most part, it was while I lived under their roof. And when I connected the fact of, and he's like, Reese's to you is love. So when you are going to Reese's, you're really missing in your life love. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So what he was able to do energetically is to release the energy tied to Reese's in that memory. So the memory's still amazing, but the energy behind it is gone. I can look at Reese's and I can look at that and go, Reese's, you are toxic. Like, we have broken up. Now, do I still wish I could have it? Yes, but I'm like, no, that's not love anymore. That's just toxic, and I'm not going to have it because, sugar still does something to me, but it took away that relationship between the Reese's and the love. And I was like, wow, if that can do that with just candy, what else can it do? And that really helped me understand our energy fields, our limiting beliefs, our emotions. They're all tied to something that he was able to help me identify where they were tied to and release the energy and help me reframe things. And I knew that that was something that I wanted to do in my life. So I started taking some theta healing sessions and some energy and following Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza and some of these people that I've come to admire. But I'm like, how do I incorporate it? Because going back to being a unique scenario, people in my life didn't necessarily jump all in and say, oh, let me practice on me. It was almost like, ooh, that's a little too weird. Not sure I buy into that. And I'm like, okay, cool, next. And it was just an interesting observation that I thought that would be my, get out of insurance jail free card, and let me go into doing this. But, life kept happening. So between career changes, sports, surviving middle school with my kids, surviving high school with my kids, my son going off to the military, working, learning, personal development, energy healing, using the healing on myself to better myself. I realized that insurance for me was truly stability, but it just kept exhausting me and burning me and putting me in where I wasn't the Vicky that I knew I had. And when I go back and I would do coaching and I would talk to people about, what their beliefs are and the energy, and they would get their aha moments, I was like, okay, there's something more in that. But anybody who's raised 2 kids and lived a corporate life where you've had a steady paycheck, you get the insurance, you get used to that, and stepping away and raising 2 kids on one income. It didn't work when I would step away and start my own business. I would end up running right back to the insurance. So fast forward, I got into an insurance agency where I started as director of sales. In 4 months, I was promoted to director of operations. And 4 months later, I was fired. Now, in that 4 months of that, I was exhausted. I was frustrated. I was behind. And I didn't understand why I was failing so much. And once I was fired, I brushed off my ego and said out to my networking community, you know me, you know what I'm about. Anything that you think of that you can introduce me, anything I can do, I would appreciate an introduction. Well, somebody introduced me to this assessment called Colby. And this Colby assessment is how we are wired. So I was like, two of my trusted people, networking partners said, you need to look into this. You love personal development. You love this stuff. You will eat this up. Okay. Well, I took the assessment and it had me to a T of how I problem solve. And it helped me understand that I wasn't fired because I wasn't motivated and I wasn't loyal and I wasn't smart. I was fired because the role that I was doing before I got promoted was right up my alley. I was able to be on go mode and go and figure it out along the way. And the job I switched to was all about, oh, no, slow down. We need more information. We need to be in the weeds. We need to figure it out before we hit go. And that we need to put the brakes on until we have everything, was why I was burnt out, why I was frustrated, and why they were frustrated with me. So it allowed me to say, okay, this is happening for me, not to me. What do I do now? So I'm like, let me start my own business. I was fired. There's a reason. Let me figure this out. And I thought, if this made such an aha moment for me, what is it going to do for other people? And it truly became the fact of what I thought was a perfect solution didn't bring in the money. And guess where I had to run back to? Insurance. So 4 years in the insurance industry, God had other plans for me. He basically said, the return to office came in about 3 years, about 3.5 years after the shutdown. We had to go back, and scenarios took place. I had to take a stand for my health. So I walked away from a 6-figure income to say, I need to take a stand for my health. I can't work here anymore, and I'm going to trust the process to know that this is happening for me and not to me. And that's when I looked at life as, I've got a blank slate ahead of me. What am I going to do? Well, let me take a step backward a few times. I was already working on plan B when I was in the insurance the last time, because I knew that I was not passionate and I would get so frustrated. And I still have this on my computer. When I would get so frustrated with it, I would say, thank you for pushing me to my purpose. So instead of going, oh my God, can you believe this? And I would say, thank you for pushing my purpose. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that thank you for pushing to my purpose helped me understand that I didn't know what was going to be ahead, except that I was going all in on the limiting beliefs and the coaching. And every session I did validated that I have been given a gift to help people understand their Reese's story, or where they're holding grief, or where the thread is in their life, to understand why that energy is still so prevalent, even though they've done the talk therapy, even though they thought they've addressed it. There's that energy tied to it, and the energy can be released just as easy as it can be magnified. Now, I would love to say that this is the ending of my story, but I already know this is not the ending, because at some point the energy healing hasn't been able to provide the steady income I need. So I've had to look at and opportunities. And that's when the People Decoder came back and said, I can do energy healing and do coaching and make a difference in people's lives so they can look at their life in a different perspective and be empowered over it versus being shackled by it. And I can also help people understand in businesses how they're wired and how their team's wired and why people butt heads and how to bridge those conversations. And that, along with how do I bring insurance back because I'm good at it? I just don't want to go back. I've been able to create a path that says I can have and opportunities for income and still say I'm still on purpose, because in my heart, I am still helping people understand not only how they're wired, but why they do the things they do, why they become people pleasers, why they are perfectionists, why they have imposter syndrome when they get in front of a group of people. all the things that chatter in our head, I can help understand intuitively to help them understand and put those pieces together. So for all the years that I tried controlling the outcome and held on tighter to, okay, I got to do this. And I just was frustrated and exhausted. And I would just start releasing and surrendering and trusting. And every time I trust, another opportunity shows up, another conversation, another client booking, an opportunity to talk in front of people that I've never spoken to before. Those are the things when I step away and just trust the conversations and trust the process and trust the relationships and trust the timing, the right conversations, the right opportunities. And I know I'm doing exactly the way I need to be doing, even though somebody else in the background would be looking, going, yeah, you probably should be doing something else. And I'm like, nope, in here, I got to trust this and I got to trust that, because God's delays are not God's denials. And my name is spelled differently for a purpose, because that is my path. Every twist, every delay, every setback, every opportunity took me from the fire to the mountain. And I hope that you can understand what your detour is preparing you for the very thing that you're meant to be doing tomorrow. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I would love to answer any questions anybody might have.
Yes, that music with the timer was like the perfect like ending. Like it was almost like composed for your close, right? I love it. Who has questions or comments for Vicky? Great job.
Thank you.
Bueller.
Vicky, I'm going to chime in really quick here. First and foremost, just want to thank you and welcome you to the mountain. I was truly grateful to Amber for introducing you to me. I think it was Saturday last week that you and I jumped on a call.
No, I think it was Monday, or I think it was Monday we jumped on a call.
No, it was Monday.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty quick turnaround. It's another Deb Rossman in the making. And it was an absolute privilege to have you join us on the mountain. I love the quick introductions and getting to know each other. And thank you for just being a part of this and helping us continue to move this movement forward. And truly grateful. So I don't know who had their hand up first. Maybe Ashley
Mary.
does.
Mary.
Yeah,
Mayor
thank you. Vicky, it's so nice to meet you. You did amazing. And so I'm so glad you brought up the whole thing about the Reese's and how your energy was tied to that, because I was going to try to weave something like that into my story with my dad, because for me, it's orange slices, like the candy, the orange slices. Like that's like my comfort. I can binge on that, like the whole tub of them. Oh my goodness. So, and I cannot wait to hear more about your people decoding. And I don't want to be released from my orange slices, though. I love
them. Thanks, Mary. Deb.
Vicky, thank you so much for jumping in and diving in. And thank you, Brother David, for making the another Deb Rossman reference, because that's how we get you. So welcome to the mountain. You did an amazing job. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I just have to say before we move on, you being strong enough to move your whole life and then it not to work out and then choosing to stay in the unknown, I don't think people realize how tough that is. I did that once upon a time and I was not as tough of a cookie as you. I came right back home with my tail between my legs. And so I admire you for that, because that's hard and you stuck it out and that's awesome. And I also wrote down what you said, and I think I will remember this for the rest of my life. God's delays are not God's denials, and that was super powerful for me. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Awesome. Anybody else before we move on to the next speaker?
Tish turned on her camera, and typically when she does that, she has something to say, but I've been wrong 1 times out of 3, so I don't know.
When she made that comment that Ashley, you said you'll never forget, I actually dropped my phone, because it's like, what did she say?
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because that was a golden nugget.
Yeah, For sure. For sure.
Yeah, I
Awesome. Well,
do
thank
have a
you.
reflection tool. If anybody's curious, I do have a reflection tool. If you want to, I can put my email in the chat. I don't know the best way to go about this. Like I said, I have not even had a chance to listen. I had a very busy 2 days and I was like, everything is like, okay, let's focus on the story. So if anybody wants a reflection worksheet, I'd be happy to send that out. So
Yes, absolutely. Put your email in the chat here. And then also,
Okay.
Vicky, make sure you go back and check the live, which is shared on David's page for any of the
Okay.
comments that people watching it on that way can
Okay.
reach out to you as well. Okay.
Great.
Moving on, our next speaker, man, you guys are just ending this just as as powerful as we started. So fantastic. Our next speaker is not just a speaker, but an author, helping leaders grow with strategy, belief, and bold action, creating a fire of legacy through leadership. I've heard him speak before, and he is amazing every single time. So hold on, everybody, and welcome Christian Martinez.
Well, Ashley, that was a great introduction. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. And I was thinking about, just as I was listening throughout the day, I haven't been able to be on the Zoom, but I was kind of listening on Facebook and then jumping on and off because I was doing training all day. And I was just thinking about, like, what an amazing opportunity to be able to honor your family, to honor their legacy, and do it with your career, right? And I think for a lot of people that don't understand what we feel with what David has created, is that some people think that the fire starts when the microphone is placed in your hand, right? And that's not true. And it wasn't true for me. For me, it started in 2003. I was watching a mentor of mine do a promotion ceremony for the top military leaders. And I remember, as I was looking at the way that he spoke, the way that he honored people in the room, the way that he walked around, it was so inspiring. And it looked to me like it was the most natural thing ever. And to everybody, it was probably just another ceremony. But to me, it was everything. Because it started a spark inside of me. I was so locked into that moment that I didn't have a language back then for what it was. I just knew that I wanted the kind of strength that I saw lived out that day. Years later, I started to finally realize what was happening inside of me. That spark, that fire, it was legacy. You know, it was understanding that your legacy comes before you ever understand what it is. It's a message, it's a question, it's a moment. If somebody else could light a fire in me the way that he did, what was my responsibility? What could I do for somebody else? So when I moved to Japan, 4 years of my life was all focused on making an impact. And when I arrived there, my life was not built to carry the passion that I had, the intensity that I wanted, and the good intentions that I had. I had a lot of great conversations, but I was completely out of alignment. And I remember one day a friend of mine reached out and he had asked me if he could interview me for Success Magazine. And honestly, at first I was like, this dude has the wrong person. Success Magazine, really? I was overwhelmed at the time. I felt stretched thin at work. I was trying to lead, trying to provide for my family. I was honestly trying to figure things out. And I could see that he was confused, but man, listen, if you're a parent, you probably understand what I'm saying. I could barely get my kids to listen to me. So I'm thinking, what is this guy talking about when he wants to interview me for Success Magazine? And I said, look, I'm not sure what you're thinking. And he said, why do you question that you're successful? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, you're one of the most successful people I know. And I thought to myself, successful? He said, yes, you have a healthy marriage. You got 3 amazing kids. You got a job. You got a home. You got a car. And you're making a difference. You're not running the streets. Now, there's no problem running the streets, guys. There's just no problem with that. I'm just saying. I wasn't running the streets at the time. And he said, by all accounts, The life you live is exactly what we want to capture. Real people living a real life, not pretend. And in that moment, that conversation forced me to think about something deeper. Not how I saw my life in that moment, but how I was living it. Because I had realized that I had become so focused on what success looked like for other people, what accomplishment had looked like for other people, that I stopped appreciating what God had already done in my life. And sometimes the lie isn't that we're failing. Sometimes the lie is that we're missing what's truly meaningful. And I believe that if we think about that long enough, we will spend our whole life minimizing the blessings that we have. Because you can't live a transformed life while agreeing with a broken narrative. You see, in that time, I realized that the mission was never the problem. My inconsistency was. My excuses were. My comfort was. And I realized that as difficult as it was, I needed to stop blaming time, pressure, and circumstances for the gap from where I was to where I wanted to be. So I made a decision. I said, I'm going to stop waiting for my life to magically be different. I'm going to start making small choices today that align with who I want to become. I started working out with a friend of mine, and we would get up at 4:30 in the morning. We'd go work out at the gym. And it was a small change, but that accountability created some amazing discipline in my life. I started to feel myself back in alignment. That season made me question and made me stop thinking about what do I need to do, and it made me start thinking about who do I actually want to become. As I look at all of these little moments over my life and I think about that fire that was building inside of me, that fire changed me in private. It changed everything. It didn't change everything around me. And honestly, that's where I think the problem is I was looking for all of this big change on the outside. I knew what mattered, and I knew that I was called to more, but I was still hiding. And it took one of my mentors. I was in an elevator. She gets on the elevator. I don't know if you've ever watched NCIS. She stops the elevator and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And she says, I need you to stop holding back. And she said that because at that moment, she knew that I had just lost my grandma. I just found out that I didn't get promoted. But that didn't matter. In that moment, she said, I want you to understand that you can't continue to shrink to fit your environment. You have amazing potential inside of you. And then she said something that I'll never forget. She said, the world doesn't need a carbon copy of anybody else. The world needs the best version of you. You see, she saw something in me that I had stopped seeing in myself. So I intentionally stopped asking, how do I stay comfortable? And I asked, what environment do I need to grow? And that question really changed my life because I know that growth is not automatic. Growth has to be intentional. So I made a decision, even with all the responsibilities around me, the fear, the uncertainty, the kids, the marriage, I intentionally placed myself in an environment that stretched me. I said, I'm going to be in a place that's going to challenge me to grow, that's going to help me develop, and that's going to call me to be more. Because some environments tolerate you, but some of them unlock you. Like this summit. And I know that I wasn't fully ready for that moment, but I also wasn't fully certain that I wanted to stay where I was. But one thing that I did know is that inside of me, I had this feeling that if I didn't take action, I would continue to be disobedient. And that didn't sit right with me. I don't like being disobedient. I don't like disobedient kids. So I said, you know what? I'm going to stop keeping my mission private. I started writing my vision and my goals in places that I could see them continuously. And then I started to make them public. So I put them in front of me. I shared them. I started sharing the vision. And what ended up shocking me the most wasn't that it was a polished or great vision, because it wasn't. It was what people started saying. It was the comments from people that really didn't know me, but saw my passion. They said, man, something's different about you. Man, you're like really focused. And that's when I learned something that I've never forgotten, that people are often waiting for you to go first. The mission may transform you privately, but it becomes a movement the moment somebody else finds the courage to finally make it visible. You know, there are two really important moments in my life, in my leadership journey, and both of them came when it wasn't any applause around. It came through correction. And I had a mentor of mine, his name was Dr. Daryl Grice. He intentionally invested in my development as a leader. Every afternoon after work, he would have me come into his office, he would sit me down, and he would talk about leadership, about growth, about communication, and responsibility. And one day during our mentorship session, he looked at me and he said, I want to share something candidly with you. I knew something was different because of his tone. And he said, man, you do a great job, Christian, of inspiring people to take action. You get them motivated and you get them to do things. But honestly, I was like getting a little bit full of myself. I was excited. I was like, okay, cool. This is what I'm talking about, right? And then he continued. He said, but you got to work on your communication. More specifically, your writing. And I remember feeling surprised because I thought I did a really good job. But that voice, that comment echoed in my ear for years. Your communication needs to be polished, not rushed. Every time I went to speak, I'd hear that. Your communication needs to be polished, not rushed. And I said, you know what? I'm going to continue to grow. Because some people, they will judge your clarity before they experience your intention. You see, I realized that he wasn't criticizing me. He was really trying to build trust. He was trying to make sure that I understood that my passion was going to open doors for me, but clarity was going to open opportunities. And I look back now, I know that he wasn't criticizing me. He was really trying to protect my future. But if we're not careful, sometimes we can get stuck. Because real mentors, they don't just celebrate your strengths. They confront the habits that are actually limiting your calling. You know, I know we all have felt Michael do this for us in a loving, kind way. But another defining moment for me came when I had another individual that I had reached out to, and I told him that I wanted to become a better leader. And he had called me into his office and he said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. You have everything that it takes. And in that moment, I was expecting some strategy, some responsibility, some career progression. I was looking for something like really tangible. And he said something that I didn't anticipate. He said, if you really want to grow as a leader, go somewhere where people don't have to follow you, but they choose to. And I remember sitting thinking about that, because up until that point, to me, leadership, lead-in, everything was surrounded around titles and expectations. But people follow you because it's structured and it's required. And I was thinking to myself, man, what he's describing is completely different. What he's describing is influence without obligation, trust without force. And the more that I reflected on that conversation, the more it challenged me, because I was thinking to myself, man, how do I create authority? How do I create this influence? And deep down, I knew that it was all given to me through this amazing woman, Isabel, my grandma. You see, she saw greatness in me a long time ago. And I started seeing it through the people that I had started to encounter, the people that I reached out for mentorship, that I had asked questions for. They saw greatness in me when I was still avoiding it. They saw a standard when I was still negotiating. They saw an assignment and I was looking for possibilities. You know, real mentors, they do that for you. They don't just encourage you, but they confront the small version of you. They keep telling you that you need to stop living beneath your calling. You know, everybody likes the language of sacrifice and of purpose until it costs something. You know, I started noticing people around me. A lot of people would say that they want to live meaningful lives, but their habits didn't match what they were saying. People wanted leadership, but they'd avoid the responsibility. People wanted a family that mattered, but they would not give their family their very best. People wanted an impact, but they would protect their comfort. And eventually, I had to confront myself the same way, because I realized that I couldn't keep talking about what mattered, but I had to start living it. And that's where your fire will get tested. Because eventually, purpose stops being inspirational and it needs to become practical. Not when the room is clapping, not when nobody, can blame you and you can back off, but when you start changing your habits. I started waking up early, practicing speeches. Instead of sleeping in, I started working out consistently. I started becoming more intentional about my schedule. If you have white space on your schedule, I promise you somebody will try to come into that space. But I gave things that were important to me the opportunity to be at the forefront of my calendar, to be intentional. You see, my life started aligning more when I decided that I wanted to become the person that I said I wanted to be. Because I realized something important, that the fire never reaches your calendar if you don't let it. And if it never reaches your calendar, it will never reach your life. And if it never reaches your life, it will never impact somebody else. Through all of that, I realized that the cost is not proof that you're off track. Sometimes the cost is a proof that you're finally ready to carry something real. You see, the goal was never to have the fire end with me. I had an amazing, strong, grandmother that was just inspirational in my life. And I understood that in theory for a really long time until I saw this play out in real life. My oldest son wanted to play basketball at the collegiate level, and I saw something shift in him when he said that was something that he wanted to do. When he was little, we would work out, but when he wanted to work out to go to college and play at that level, he started working out 3 times a day. And when he would compete, you would see this look come over his face, and it'd be like, man, like something new was happening. And I would just watch him in amazement and just watch the way that he would practice, the way that he would, work out. When he was younger, it was simple. He would ask me about these drills and I would just try to guide him through the drills. But eventually it became his appetite that was inspiring. And then something powerful happened. He stopped borrowing my belief and he started building his own. As I watched him grow and compete at so many levels, I had this realization that legacy is not at its highest when people remember your name. It's at its highest when somebody else starts moving with the courage because you opened the door. That is when you know the fire is doing what it's meant to do. It is no longer just warming your life, but it's lighting the path for others. I'll close with this. The past may explain who you are, but it doesn't have to define you. Regret may be part of your story, but it's never meant to be your permanent residence. Because the fire placed inside of you was never designed to stop. It was meant to reach your family, your leadership, your environment, your community. And the people that you may never meet but one day they'll get impacted by the ripple that you've caused. You see, somebody is going to find the courage simply because you decided to not stop, to quit hiding, and to step forward. That's legacy. Not just achieving success, but becoming the kind of person who lives the life that other people say that it's a privilege to know and begin to live again. You see, somebody is waiting on the version of you that finally stops hiding. I'm going to repeat that again. Somebody is waiting on the version of you that finally stops hiding. So carry the fire forward and use regret as your backstory, but never as your destination. I love you all. David, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. Ashley, you've been doing an amazing job. Thank you, guys.
Christian, Martina. So I always love to hear you speak. I'm always moved by you. You always make me put pen to paper and take notes and quote you. So if you see my Facebook post the next few days quoting you, I can't help it. Okay. So we got to send it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Deb, your hand was raised quick.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready to pounce. Mr. Martinez. Hey, baby, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
Oh, I mean, today has been incredible. And talk about, as we're nearing, our base camp for this evening, finishing strong. And I believe we've got Doug coming up behind you and David again. But the thing that has captured me about what you were sharing with us today is the role of being a mentor.
Yeah.
And I love how you were talking about, different mentors you've had, that, their ability to see within you something that maybe is not a major strength of yours, more of a minor, but to be able to see it, recognize it, and help, help kind of pull it out of you. And I just want to pay homage to Jewel, who was my acting mentor. Jewel Fitzgerald. Is that not fabulous? And and we had auditions for Barefoot in the Park. Now I've been old, I think, forever. And even 30 years ago, I was old. And I, because I had taken a decade off and went back to college. Anyway, bottom line was, I knew I would be perfect as this young, pretty, blonde Barbie creature, Jessica, to be Mother. I could be, I was all over that at the rehearsal. Mother. And we had classes with Jewel and everything else. And I was dropping hints. I was not subtle at all. And at one point she had enough of me. And she looked at me at the end of the day and she said, "Why not Corey?" And I went home and I pondered and I revamped everything. And we had another day of auditions. And guess who got cast as Corey? So your story allowed me to revisit that time in my life, and for me to start stepping into mentor, because I love seeing what's in people, and the idea you really got the assignment, by the way, carry the flame forward, carry the fire forward. About, again, mentoring and seeing and cultivating so that people can really burn bright and shine like you do. And thank you so much for sharing that glow with us. Thank you. I adore you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
David.
Christian, absolutely love you, bro. I know you had a hectic, busy of a day, and you still put us in your busy schedule, and that's just a testament to who you are, to your
Yeah.
heart and just the level of service that you bring. And, you know, I absolutely love every single time you come and join us at the summit. I think maybe fourth time. I have a hard time keeping track.
Yeah.
You know, with 40 plus speakers, it's hard to remember. But absolutely love having you a part of this, bro. And I know you got a lot of cool things that's going on your end, and absolutely crushed it, man. And thank you again for joining us and being a part of the mountain. And absolutely love you, bro. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna share one thing. I don't know if we have time, Ashley. I don't want to go over time, but it's funny. So I got up this morning and I was like, why did I do this to myself? So I had 6 hours of training today. So I was training a company, and it was so funny because I almost said I'm not gonna do it. And then when I woke up, so I got up early, I jumped on Facebook and I saw Ashley was hosting, and I was like, I can't do this to her. I can't do this to her. So I was like, I cannot not show up. So I was like, oh man. But I am exhausted. But this right here, I will tell you, one of the things that brings the most joy to my life is being able to just take a moment and just ask if there's one thing that I can say to somebody that can help them, that can connect with them, that can inspire them, then I'm all for it. I'm all in, 10 toes down. So it's never hard to say yes. Sometimes it's just difficult because of the timing.
I appreciate that. Hey, I
Yeah.
appreciate the commitment.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna go take a nap.
Absolutely, bro. But I had to add this in. I don't know if you saw this, Ashley, but he couldn't cancel on the sweet, beautiful Ashley Burkeen.
Hey, look, I know what it takes. Even if it would have been James, when I see people that are helping out, Austin, like when people are committed to the cause and they're like invested, like it throws their game off if they have to go, well, we have to reschedule. I need to find somebody else, or I need to jump in. So I was like, you won't have to jump in on my behalf. So
Well, I appreciate the love. We can do this every week, guys, if you want to. I could really. Thank you so much, Christian. You crushed it per usual. Thank you as always.
Thank
Guys,
you.
make sure you give Christian his flowers in both chats on YouTube and on Facebook. And Christian, make sure you head over to Facebook, check the live on David's page to interact with anybody that has any questions or flowers to give you there. Really quick before we move on to our last speaker for the day, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsors of the event, because it's events, virtual or not, are heavy and a lot to do, and we couldn't do it without the people that help along the way. And so the sponsors are Mountain Summit sponsors, Michael Hummel and Mary Wood. Thank you guys so much. You're from Mary today, you're from Michael tomorrow. Legacy Year sponsor Tim Gillette, you also hear from him tomorrow. And Legacy sponsors Carry the Fire Forward, May Scott and Tish McDaniel, and we will be hearing from Tish. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce our final speaker for the day. I think this is a great way to cap off the day. I love to hear him speak. I've heard him multiple times now, impactful every single time. He is an entrepreneur, a coach, a author, an international speaker. Okay, he be traveling. He opens the minds of those he pours into and ensures to help support them lean into their next version of themselves. And I cannot wait for him to pour into you guys. So without any further ado, Doug Freer.
Wow. I appreciate that so much, Ashley, to hear those amazing words from you. I'm hearing you introduce everybody today, and it's just, you're doing an amazing job, and it fills my heart to hear these kind words as well. David, great choice, and you not doing and letting Ashley do it. Thank you for creating this space. This is amazing, brother. I love you so much, and I appreciate everything you're doing. I know it's not easy. It's a lot of hard work you do, and I appreciate it so much. Dave and I had a talk. I had a conflict that was coming up, and I was like, but I put the other stuff on hold because this year, Dave's my brother from another, and he takes precedent for me. I love what everybody's saying here. I've been in the Zoom a little bit. I've been more on Facebook, listening to everybody speak. There's been a lot of great things said. It's so impactful, and I love hearing everybody's perspective because I have my own aha moments, things that align with what I'm saying, things that go against the way I've thought for many years. And I just love to hear all the different perspectives. One thing I've learned is that grief changes you. And the goal contrary to what we believe, the goal isn't to move on. The goal is to learn, to move forward while carrying the love, the lessons, and the legacy of those you've lost. You see, most of us here, we've lost somebody that's been very dear to us, very, very deep love. And that's why we're here. One of my key moments in my life that really was pivotal in my whole growth happened when I was 12 years old. I remember when I was 10 or 11, my dad was playing a vacation. And my parents had separated when I was a baby. There's a whole backstory. They both had trying times and they were into things that weren't good for them. But then after I was born, shortly after, my mom decided, you know what? This life isn't for me anymore. I'm going to do what's right for my children. And she got cleaned herself up. My dad stayed on that path for a little while longer. And as far as I know, I don't have a lot of memories before I was 7, but when I was 7, he got sober too. And he was a part of my life. And I remember, I think I was about 11, he was playing a vacation and he wanted to take me with him to the Dominican Republic. His cousin had gone, and this is back before the internet. So you went off word of mouth, what other people said. His cousin had gone, had an amazing time. He stayed at this hotel in this city. And so my dad said, you know what? I'm going to do the same because that sounds amazing. So they went about 6 months apart. A couple months after my dad gets back, his cousin gets sick. And he goes to the doctor. The doctor sends him to the hospital for tests. And they discover that he's got a rare form of cancer, barely ever seen in Canada. And you see, I'd begged my mom to let me go with my dad, but she said no because my grades weren't good enough. She didn't want me missing that kind of school, even though it was only a week. I wasn't allowed to go. My dad's cousin didn't just get sick, but he passed away from cancer. They went on vacation about 6 months apart. My second cousin, it was February when he passed, maybe a little bit later. My birthday weekend, my 12th birthday weekend, I remember hearing my dad having a conversation with his girlfriend at the time about being in pain. So much so that he thought about waking me up in the middle of the night to drop me off there so he could go to the hospital. But he chose to let me sleep, as any parent would do. But then he went, and on my 12th birthday, he was diagnosed with the same rare cancer that his cousin had. That was in August. And then I remember in November, he passed. And they put him on life support so the family could come in and say their goodbyes. And I remember I'm 12 years old. I've seen movies, I've seen television shows. I have this idea of what happens in the ICU. The nurses are telling me, my family's telling me, they're reminding me, hey, he's gone. The machines are keeping him breathing. The machines are keeping his lungs moving. The machines are keeping his heart pumping the blood through his veins. But he's not there. So I go in, 12 years old. Just take a moment to think back to when you were 12. You're a superhero at the time. Because I was standing beside my superhero on his right side, holding his hand. And at 12 years old, we know it all. We're unstoppable. We got this power, right? So I'm squeezing with all my might because I know my dad can feel it. He's going to feel it. He's going to fight. He's going to come back. God's going to feel how tightly I'm squeezing and see how much I need my dad, my superhero, to come back. And then they turn off the machines. It's just like in the movies. That steady heart rate slows until it's a solid beep, and they shut it off, they mute it. What they didn't tell me, what no TV show, no movie, no nurse, no doctor could prepare me for, was that those machines didn't just pump air into his lungs. They didn't just pump his heart. They pumped his muscles. And here I am squeezing his hand, and when that machine turned off, the machine stopped pumping his muscles, and it felt like his hand let go. And I held on to that for decades. That was how I identified it. I was mad. I was confused. How can God, if there is a God, was what I was thinking, how can he do this to me? I'm 12 years old. How can he take my superhero from me? I was so angry that the 12-year-old beefcake that I was, this big, strong, strapping young man that was like maybe 5 feet tall, 100 pounds soaking wet. I called out God and I said, when I get to heaven, you and I, we're going to have words. We're going to go toe to toe because this is bullshit. And I lost a lot of faith. I was so angry. I looked for ways to numb it. I let fear creep in, fear of being loved, fear of loving others. Because I don't know about you, but when I lost that someone important to me, I didn't just lose a person. I lost routines. I lost certainty. Sometimes some of us, we lose a version of ourselves that existed when they were here. And it's not our whole selves, but it's a part of us that we lose. And we get so caught up in that loss and so angry that we hold on to it. And I wish that this has been almost 40 years. There's still days where I grieve my dad. And I wish I could tell you that grief has a finish line, but it doesn't. But I can tell you, life can become meaningful again if you allow it to. See, I remember hearing people, I went to counseling, and I've even heard it in my teen years, young adult, even recently, hear people saying things like, you need to move on. It's not just with the death of a loved one, but what about a relationship that's failed? People say you just need to move on. How about instead of you just need to move on, we say you learn to move forward. Because moving on, that suggests that we're leaving people behind. And when we lose a loved one, we don't need to leave them behind. Because moving forward, that means that we're carrying their love, their lessons, their values, and their impact with us. When I heard the name of the summit, Carry the Fire Forward, it reminded me of the fire that was put inside me from my parents. And carrying the fire forward to me doesn't mean carrying pain forever. It means carrying what mattered. See, grief, it has this way of creeping up on us. Or sometimes it just hits us really hard, like a transport truck. But oftentimes it makes us avoid talking. But what if instead of avoiding talking, we could share memories? I want to share a quick memory with you, a good one, fun one. My dad had some farmland, and we'd go up there on the weekends when I was with him, and he had a pickup truck, and he was a joker. He was a clown. We had lots of fun. And I remember one time he got me to ride in the back of the pickup truck. We're driving down this dirt road, and he hammers the gas through a puddle. And the water didn't just spray out, but it also came into the bed of the truck, and I was soaked. And I was like, oh, I was so mean, but so fun at the same time. Let's do it again. Well, then a couple weeks later, my older sister came up with my cousin, and my dad's like, you get to be inside the truck this time. We're going to have fun. Don't tell them. And we went down that road, and when we got close to that puddle, he stepped on the gas. They got soaked, and all of us laughed and had a great time. Isn't that such a better story than the story I started with? So what if we remember those memories? What if we speak their names? I heard it earlier. People die twice. Once when they stop living, and once when we stop sharing their stories or speaking their name. My dad's name was David Alfred Ferrier. For those of you that don't know, my first legal name is actually David, but I go by Doug because I can't be in the same room as Dave and be a Dave as well. What if we share these stories with the younger generations? Tell our kids, our grandkids, nieces and nephews, these fun stories that we had. Instead of telling them that we walked 5 miles uphill both ways through 6 feet of snow when we were their age, wearing sandals and shorts, how about we tell them the fun stories? So I want to ask you, I want to challenge you on something. You're right, Tish. It is Sir Douglas. What is a story about someone you've lost, whether they're passed on or they're still here? What's a story about them that deserves to live on? I remember one of my worst breakups ever. I had a bad thing I would say that was very negative, and it was because I needed to heal. It was a really bad breakup. But that was part of the spark for me to take the next step in my healing journey, to become the leader that I meant to be for my family, for myself, for the world. Continuing on with what we learned from those that have passed. What about their values? Continuing their values. What mattered to them? What's a quality that they embodied that we can share? See, my dad, one of the things he taught me, he was in the 70s, he was riding a motorcycle with a bunch of other motorcycle riders, if you catch what I'm saying. But he taught me something about equality, about fair treatment of all humankind. And that's something that lives with me to this day. I honestly can't fathom the idea of disliking somebody simply because they're different from you. Judge somebody on their character versus what you see visually. Maybe some of the qualities that somebody you loved embodied was kindness. Maybe it was resilience. When times got tough, they just kept going. Maybe they were great at telling jokes. They had a great sense of humor. Or lived a life of service. One of the greatest tributes that we can give to those that have passed isn't perfection. It's living out the values that they helped instill in us. So what value can you intentionally embody this week? Christian was talking about it earlier, I believe. He was talking about being intentional. What value can you intentionally embody this week? And one of the things we need to do, especially as men, we hear this all the time, that we need to suppress our feelings. Society is getting better, but we still hear it. Suppress your feelings, shut up, you're fine, suck it up. But strength isn't suppressing emotions. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, child, adult. Strength is not suppressing emotions. Strength is creating space for them. It's okay to get sad when you lose somebody. It's okay to be angry. Just don't live there. Because what happens when you live there is you suck the life out of your life. You suck the life out of your relationships that come after that. And you lose the joy. You don't need to choose between grieving and living. You can do both. And some of the tools that you could use to help you with it, I heard it earlier. Talking to people you trust. For anybody that knows my story, November 2014, I talked to people that I trusted because I stood on the ledge contemplating a permanent decision to a temporary problem. Maybe you need to see a counselor. There's nothing wrong with that. Having a support group around you like this family here, this summit. Maybe you need to pray. And you can do things like what David's done. He's giving his pain a purpose. By creating this space, this summit, he's giving a purpose to his pain. And we hear about it all the time. And sometimes it's hard to admit it and accept it that we went through these challenges to make us stronger for the next level. I remember times when I was on my knees begging, saying, I don't want to be strong anymore. I'm done. Please, I don't want to fight anymore. And that was around the time I stood on that rooftop. Basically, we can choose differently. We can choose, instead of living in that depressive state, living in that anger, to change our habits, to change our routines, to start focusing on the positive side of things that we're missing. One of the things I did to turn my pain into purpose was writing my book. That was one of the most therapeutic things I did for myself. And then sharing my story with people in rooms like this to help make a difference in their lives. But I want you to understand, pain is not a prerequisite for purpose. But purpose can emerge from pain. I remember hearing somebody speak once at an event, and a lot of people were talking about their pain and how it was their purpose. And the speaker said, I haven't been through that kind of pain. I don't really have those kinds of experiences, but what I do have is these positive experiences that shape me and help me be a better person. See, sometimes we get so caught up in we have to be a victim. And yes, I was living in victim mindset for many years. We get caught up in the victim side of it, that we forget about the good things that came of it. So what's something that you've learned through loss that someone else needs? My book that I wrote has been out for just over a year. And I remember somebody asking me about the sales. And honestly, I was kind of disappointed that I didn't have more sales. But what I did have was messages from people that read it at the right time. People sending me a message that I didn't even knew I wrote a book, but I knew them. They're sending me a message saying, hey, I bought your book for somebody I loved because they needed it. They needed something and they went through it. They did the work and they're on a better path now. In honor of that, those messages, in honor of this summit, what it stands behind, in honor of the fact that June is Men's Mental Health Month, and to me, men's mental health means a lot. I've got a special promo going on. You can get my ebook for free on Amazon. No charge. I don't get your email address. Nothing. Is completely free. If you know somebody that needs it, send them the link. You could be the reason somebody's life changes. I want to leave you with this. Imagine sitting around a campfire with someone that you deeply love. The fire provides warmth. It provides connection. It provides stories. It provides safety. But when they're gone, they can feel like that fire went out. But carrying that fire forward means realizing they handed you that torch. The warmth they gave you wasn't meant to end with them. It's now yours to share with others. That's everything I have for you today. Thank you.
Well done, Doug, per usual. Love it. Tish, she's ready. All right, girl.
It's a good thing I cried earlier. Makes it a lot easier to talk to folks that you want to cry. Doug, what you said about the pain and the purpose, that was a conversation I had with a dear friend yesterday, almost as if you listened to that conversation. And she was afraid that she would forget Judy. Judy fought 4 rounds of cancer, just a powerhouse, even when she was struggling. And so my friend Cynthia has a picture of Judy by her computer, and she talks to Judy. And I am going to, tonight, I'm going to send her a text with what you said, because she thinks that her purpose in life is to have that picture of Judy. That's awesome. But the pain, no, she does not need to keep the pain. And she needs to look at, and I say needs to, suggest. And how many times do we do that? You have your minor purpose, your major purpose, and you have the pain, and just be the light. And thank you for being the light, Doug. Sir Douglas, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing, Tish.
Deb.
Sir Douglas, I like the sound of that. Hey, baby, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I am so much better now, having listened to your spot on, nailed the assignment presentation. My biggest takeaway is being somewhat familiar with the story about your dad and losing him when you were young, and the heartbreaking, almost Charles Dixonian moment, you in the hospital pressing your father's hand. And then a little while later, you turn around and you talk about the pickup truck and the puddle. Yeah, I like that story better. Very much. I like that story very much. And just thank you for being able to gently turn us in the direction so we can grab our torches and carry them forward. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for those amazing words.
So amazing. Doug, a rock star per usual. Like I said, I adore you. I love hearing you speak. And every time you just pack a punch that almost everybody in the room needs to hear. So great cap to the evening. Thank you so much. Guys, make sure you are showing Doug his love and flowers on all the social media. Of course, drop the green and black in the chat. Make sure you press that red heart and show some engagement and love for Doug. And leave your comments and questions for him there if you're on the other socials. What a day, right? I highly encourage and recommend you guys reaching out to somebody and inviting them to tomorrow. One of the speakers said it today that we've all experienced loss. That's loss of a loved one or loss in a different capacity. And this is so healing and moving for so many people. And if you've noticed, when there are new faces, the summit after that, those new faces make a return. And I think that that speaks volumes to the impact that you guys all have on them. Tomorrow, David, I'm gonna hand it back over to you, but just some housekeeping stuff for tomorrow. We start at 6:45 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. ChatGPT and Google will tell you what time that is, Central or East Coast, so that you don't get it wrong. Because I was late this morning because I almost got it wrong. So make sure that you're paying attention to that time change, and be here with bells on, ready to learn and ready to pour into people. It's all you, Dave.
Thank you, mademoiselle. Let's first and foremost put our hands together for our MC, Ashley Burkeen. She was legendary today. You know, I keep asking myself today, and I'm sure Austin is grateful for this, I don't know how I did this before without Ashley. She outdid herself in more ways than I can explain. She made the day flow flawlessly, even when we had to shuffle a little bit of things throughout the day today. So Ashley, sis, thank you so much for jumping in as our MC. You know I will be asking again in the future. I want to thank all of our amazing sponsors through today and when we go into tomorrow, and this is what we're going to continue to do. So listen up, y'all. Here's what's going to happen right now. Okay, when the screens turn off, the room goes quiet, and you walk back into your house. And I know a lot of us are sitting in our house, but some of us are going to go outside to take care of our pets, our animals, the sanctuary that Tish has in where she lives outside of, I think, Nashville, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I never remember where anybody lives except for myself. And Ashley taking care of the chickens and the pigs. Let's remember something after what we witnessed today. When the screens turn off, the cell phones turn off, something may trigger where the emotions come roaring back. The emotions, the night, and in the moment that matters most, not what happened on the screen today. Let's remember the fire within our heart and soul. Because what happened today, we all received the flame from all of these amazing speakers. Tonight, instead of receiving it, you're going to carry it. So tonight I'm going to give you 3 embers, 3 small acts. And if I hear that you skip them. I'm going to jump in my 350 and I'm going to drive all over the US and then make my way to Canada. Okay? I know everybody would love that and it might take me a little bit, but if you skip these, I'll give you the Dwayne Johnson eyebrow raised look. Number one, before you go to bed tonight, I want you to write down one sentence about the person that you're climbing for. One sentence. What they gave you that you refuse to let die. The second one, I want you to tell one person in your life out loud. Don't keep it internally. That's where the grief wins. That's where the fire diminishes. One thing that broke open in your life today. Call them, text them, wake them up if you have to. Fire that stays hidden, like I said earlier, goes out. And number 3, set your alarm. I don't think you have to worry about as bright and as early as I do, because I'm the one that's behind everybody in the time zones. But when your alarm goes off tomorrow, before your feet even hit the floor, I want you to say these words. The fire is still lit, and today I'm going to pass it. Because day 2 is not going to be like day 1. Day 2 is passing the flame, and those are different mountains, because today we received it. Tomorrow the question changes. Today the question was, what did they leave in you? Tomorrow the question becomes, what are you going to leave in someone? And at the very end of tomorrow, at the summit itself, we are going to do something that we've only done once. And we started this back in April. And it's called Passing the Torch ceremony. I'm not going to tell you what happens in it. I'm not going to tell you what you'll be asked to do, or what you'll be holding, or whose name will be spoken at what happens, but I will be able to tell you this. People are going to be walking out of this ceremony different than when they walked in. There will be a moment, one specific moment, where the fire stops being mine, stops being our speakers, and becomes yours to give away. That's what this mountain is all about, y'all. It's not about sitting here, as I mentioned earlier. It's not about being audience members. It's about being a part of the rope team. Right now, we're on the switchbacks halfway up. And by the end of tomorrow, you're going to be at the summit. You're going to be seasoned mountaineers. And a lot of us have climbed several summits. And tomorrow, by the end of Carry Your Fire Forward, we're going to be reaching back down and bringing more men and women back up to the mountaintop. Because there ain't no mountain high enough that we can't climb. So let's receive the flame today, take in and what we've learned from everyone, and let's get ready to ignite it even more. Let's build a bonfire that will not diminish. Tonight you carry it, tomorrow we pass it. So everybody on Zoom, Thank you for sticking in with us tonight and all day today, because today was absolutely powerful with all of the men and women that spoke. And it's just going to get even stronger tomorrow with Martha Tripp kicking it off in the morning. So tune in at 6:45 a.m. MST, as Ashley said. Thank you all from Facebook World. Thank you for being with us. And everyone on YouTube, thank you for being with us. And remember, tune into our YouTube channel. And there might be something I might do tomorrow. And I'm just going to dingle that little hook and leave it with that. So tonight, y'all have an amazing night. Get some rest, because tomorrow we got more climbing to do. So Ash, do you have anything else you want to close with? And Austin, if you're with us, do you have anything to add, bro?
Nope.
What do you got, Mr. Cunliffe? Yes.
He's ready for tomorrow.
All right. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Sleep well, and we'll see everybody in the